Disaster preparedness is always on our minds here in Central Florida, especially during hurricane season, which is June through November. And on this special edition of Active Lifestyles, we'll learn about various services that are offered on a national, state, and local level to help us get through any type of disaster. Stay tuned for Active Lifestyles. Volunteer ombudsmen are community members from all walks of life who are passionate about improving the life for residents living in long-term care facilities. They're trained to work with residents and their family members to communicate concerns and resolve problems by providing advocacy, support, education, and empowerment. With me today is Robert Cochran. He's the District Ombudsman for Florida's Ombudsman Program, to explain more. And Robert, thanks so much for joining us. And you know, here we are, we have a loved one in an assisted living facility. So what exactly are the plans and guidelines that have to be followed by that facility?
Every year, the nursing homes and assisted living centers are seen by AHCA, the Agency for Healthcare Administration, and there are specific guidelines put in place for their safety and welfare without doubt during hurricane season and throughout the year. So one of the very important parts is to make sure that through emergency management that their emergency plan has been done and has been accepted. This includes having a generator and any other way that they may have to protect their residents from any possible harm.
Okay, so we have that person in the facility. Now, as the family member, how do I kind of get in touch with the facility, or I check that all of these guidelines are being met?
The emergency management program that the nursing home has put in place, there's usually a binder that explains how they're going to handle any crisis or emergency that happens. That has to be renewed all the time. That is readily accessible for the family members to review. Once again, they will know there's going to be an evacuation going someplace else. What are they going to do if the power goes off? That is for them to review at any time. And without doubt, the administrative facility should discuss that with the family for any questions before something happens.
And I think that's the important part, is to do it before anything happens. And we're going to get into that in just a moment, because I know all of a sudden here we are in Florida and we're watching the weather and those storm warnings start happening and we start thinking about this. But I also didn't realize that because of environmental control rules for nursing homes and assisted living facilities, they require a specific space requirement for each resident when they're brought into a common area or a safe area. So how exactly does this work? And also, how are they transported there? Kind of the nuts and bolts of what happens when this disaster warning happens. Also related to, like, are there still COVID-19 precautions in place?
Well, first, I'm going to work at it backwards. Without doubt, personal protective equipment is provided for all residents and staff, including masks and gowns, just in case there's a COVID someplace, if they're going to be transported someplace else, or if the whole group is going to get together. I mean, residents may be moved from their private rooms into larger areas to better monitor situations, just in case something could come flying through a window. Once again, their safety is going to be put into place that way. Staffing oftentimes is increased, pretty much as an all hands on deck. Everybody's going to show up because the focus remains the safety and well-being of that resident. There are special emergency food and water that is in place, once again, for at least 3 days to help them with the nutrition, and all their medications are provided at that time also, and that is always brought with them if they're going to be moved any place.
Oh, absolutely. And now there's also the possibility, what if I want to bring my loved one to my home? You know, I feel maybe a little better about having them actually in my home rather than somewhere else. What are those procedures?
Very, very important to let the facility know as soon as you made that decision. They will assist perhaps by backing up some of your mom's clothing or items, something like that. They will be able to sign off the medication that he or she is on, just to make sure that they're continuing. Definitely the medication goes on. For example, a diabetic may need syringes or insulin, things like that. But that's very, very important. They will let them know, give them the address, where you're going to be taking them, how long you expect them to be with them. And I'm sure the facility will want to know, are you going to be safe at home with them? Are there anything that we perhaps can provide for you, and go from there? But definitely call in advance and make that appointment to get mom or dad safely away from the nursing home and into the home.
And you've said it again, do these things in advance. You know, I think every hurricane season we get those little warnings about, you know, make sure you have batteries and your flashlights and all of those details. But then we don't think about really taking that next step for our loved one who might be in an assisted living facility and getting in there ahead of time to see what are the procedures there.
One concern also would be, you know, if the highways and the roads are suddenly shut down and you're on your way to get mom or you're on your way to get back, without doubt, plan ahead. Plan ahead. Get any emergency numbers from the facility if you need them. Many administrators always give their personal cell phones. Everything is asset for the resident.
Absolutely. Now, there's also, you know, we hear those stories about, you know, evacuating vulnerable or frail seniors, that, you know, things can happen and it's kind of dangerous for them. So what precautions do facilities have on hand to really keep them physically safe?
Well, I think one of the most important parts, the facilities plan to stay in place versus evacuate. Definitely, you know, we may have facilities, like say, that are right on the water, because we cover Brevard County also. That might be a reason they may have to move, but they're assisted communities. But once again, all the staff will be there to come and to comfort. Once again, to extend the healing hands of themselves to help that resident with their transition. By explaining what is going on as complete as possible, can make it safe, etc. There may be even families who may wish to help out. Volunteers come in. There are different agencies that also help out to allow this to be a safe process. But yes, there's always a possibility, but we try to be as optimistic as possible if we have to do an evacuation. Also, Department of Health and Adult Protective Services may assist also.
Absolutely. And I know your organization is all volunteers. So as I mentioned, they're from all walks of life. And, you know, I'm sure you're always looking for more folks to help out with the program.
Oh my goodness, there's a great need. I mean, even during the pandemic, we've had new buildings open, new residents move in, etc. It's a continuing process. I call it the labor of love. You know, you really do get touched by the residents. You know, they share their journey of life with you, and it's just important to let them know that they're not alone on their journey, and we're there for them.
Absolutely. And thank you, Robert. Thank you to the Florida Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program for being our guest. And remember to contact them if you have any questions or concerned about your loved ones in long-term care. Stay tuned. Our next guest is Ingrid Collins, Associate State Director for AARP in Central Florida, to talk about various hurricane preparedness resources. And welcome, Ingrid. AARP, everybody's familiar with your group, but you as the community director, what exactly does that mean and how does it fit into our hurricane preparedness program?
My job is to work in the community. I work with a group of volunteers, and we really endeavor to share information and resources and make sure that our community is happy and healthy and whole. We want to make sure that people can access the information that is available, because there's quite a bit. AARP has a wealth of resources online. We have documents, we have videos, and we're here to talk about disaster preparedness.
Really, because if you think about it, you know, here we are in Florida.
Yes.
Knock on wood, we've been pretty lucky for a while, but we always kind of think about this could be it. We're surrounded by water, even right here in Central Florida. We're not necessarily on the coast, but if anybody remembers Charlie, Francis, and Jean a few years ago, they know that's where we need these programs and these resources.
And yes, my own home was affected. So we have areas that maybe in the past had not been traditionally affected, and all of a sudden, then they were. So you can't rely on that. We have, you know, inland areas in Central Florida that may be affected. So what we want to do is get the message out that it is important to be prepared, to plan ahead, that just because something never has happened doesn't mean it never would in the future.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned that, the importance of a disaster plan.
Yes.
And we always hear that. Well, how does AARP kind of nudge us along in getting that disaster plan in place?
Yes. So we want people to have a plan to make sure that you have your paperwork in order. Make sure that you have your checklist. Make sure that you think about what happens before, during, and after a storm. Because before a storm, it's, do I stay or do I go? Sometimes the choice is up to you. You might choose to go. Maybe you have, a pet. Maybe you have special needs. You have to know what are the resources in your community. What are the shelters? Sometimes you have to pre-register if you have a pet, for example, or if you have special needs, if you have medical devices that are important to you and to your health and well-being. Maybe you choose to go. You have to let someone know where you're going.
Absolutely.
So that they know where to
and
find you.
AARP is real. I was amazed when I knew I was going to be chatting with you. You have so many great videos that just walk us through that. And I know a lot of times, we don't take the time to read something, but if we see it on a video, that really makes a difference.
Yes. And some of our videos cover things like generator safety. And that is so critical because you can't just store a generator everywhere or anywhere. What do you do with the gas? Should you keep the gas in it, or if you're going to store it separately, how do you do that? Those kinds of things. What about contractor safety?
Yes. In fact, we're going to have one of those videos right now to show folks just a little bit of information for that.
Great.
Hurricanes can cause life and property threatening hazards, such as high winds, tornadoes, flooding, and storm surge. The most important precaution you can take to reduce damage to your home and property is to protect it from wind damage by strengthening and reinforcing roofs, windows, doors, and garage doors. Clear your home of exterior clutter and debris that high winds can turn into projectiles and cause structural damage. Trim back shrubs and any branches touching your home since they could cause damage in a storm. Keeping trees well pruned will allow wind to pass through with minimal damage and debris. Make sure hurricane shutters are in working condition and get any repairs done well in advance of hurricane season. Pay attention to weather advisories and remember that the path of a hurricane can change quickly and unexpectedly. Know the difference between these two advisories. Hurricane watch. Hurricane conditions are a threat within 48 hours. Review plans, stay informed, and be ready if a warning is issued. Hurricane warning. Hurricane conditions are expected within 36 hours. Complete storm preparations and leave the area if directed to do so. The best way to protect your family from the effects of a disaster is to prepare your home and have a disaster plan. Make sure others know about your plans and how to reach you, whether you shelter at home or have to evacuate. Please watch our other disaster preparedness videos covering various topics of importance.
And Ingrid, I love watching a video, just something to give me the information. I can play it over and over again. And these are really great information.
They really are. And I agree with you that sometimes a quick video even reminds you and prompts you of things that maybe you hadn't thought of. And one good example of that is medications. Sometimes you might think, I'm going to hunker down, as our forecasters like
love that
to say.
term.
I do. I use it all the time. And so if you think about that, assuming that our emergency managers haven't told us to evacuate, which you should absolutely heed those instructions. But if you're choosing to stay at home and you need medication, what if your pharmacy closes? How much medication do you need for several weeks at home? You need to plan ahead for things like that. So those kinds of tips and tricks are available there.
And so we've gotten a lot of information already, and folks can, of course, check with AARP and see all of those great video resources. Any last few #1 tips for if there is a disaster looming?
Well, even if there's not, right? Our main instruction is have a plan, right? Have a plan to stay, have a plan to go. no matter what, you should always have a plan. And those plans include, if you're going to stay, have things with you, make sure you're checking your list, make sure you're checking your bags. If you have a bag at home, check it every year. Things perish, things are expired. Make sure you're checking your phone numbers, your contact information, your documents. If you're planning to go somewhere, let somebody know where you're going, and just check it every year, because things change and we want to make sure that everyone is safe. That is number one.
Absolutely. And remember to visit AARP's dedicated disaster page for resources and educational videos at aarp.org/Florida/Florida Disaster Help, or FL Disaster Help. And let's all stay safe. Such great information. Thanks, Ingrid.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Holly Francis, VP of In-Home Care and Guardianship Programs at Seniors First. We'll be talking about the programs and services Senior First provides in Orange County and how they prepare for emergency situations such as those during hurricane season, as well as other disasters that may impact their service area. Thanks again, Holly, for joining us. And we're so familiar with Seniors First, but your particular situation, what does your job entail, briefly?
I oversee all of our in-home care programs. Those are the programs that provide case management, personal care, homemaking, companionship to our seniors, as well as our guardianship program. I also oversee our emergency food pantry that we have that is open to anyone 2 days every month.
Oh, that's terrific. So we are talking about hurricane or disaster preparedness. So for those particular subjects, what does Seniors First provide?
Every spring, we provide all of our clients some safety information to help them get prepared, what they should have on hand, such as non-perishable food items, flashlights, batteries, reminder to make sure that their cell phone is fully charged if there's an emergency, emergency contact numbers nearby. For all of our clients that receive meals through us, we will send them 5 days of shelf-stable meals in case the power goes out or our services are interrupted for any reason. We certainly don't want our seniors going hungry. We will also, if a storm is imminent, we will do a call down where we will actually play a recorded message and we'll update it as necessary with relevant information. So again, some safety tips, shelter information, updates of the storm, those types of things. All of our in-home service workers, when they're going out into the homes, they will also look around and just make sure that there's, if there's anything outside that can be brought in, that damaging winds might pick up, so we can keep them safe that way.
Yeah, that's a great point as well, that you have someone with that extra set of eyes, maybe seeing, a garden hose that's out, in the back of the house. Absolutely. Or something, loose furniture that might be outside. And that's terrific. So you really do look after the folks as far as meals, as far as any other safety procedures.
We do.
So now we have the storm, we have the disaster, and that has passed, thank goodness. So what do you all do as far as follow-up procedures?
Well, the other things that we do to help seniors get ready for the storm, we give them the opportunity to register with the Orange County Special Needs Registry, and they do emergency shelters that are specifically for folks that have no other option. Maybe they need transportation, or maybe they need some specialized medical care that they're equipped to give at those shelters. So the county will reach out to them prior to the storm and also after the storm to follow up to make sure that those seniors are okay. And our case managers will also physically call all of our seniors to find out if they're okay, what their needs are, is there anything that we can do to assist them, or we can connect them with the appropriate resources.
And I really think that's really important for us, if we have a loved one who is being benefited through Seniors First, that, we know that somebody is looking out for them. Maybe I live in a different state, in a different area of Florida, and, we're all under an evacuation or some sort of disaster situation, but Seniors First is really there to look out for our loved ones.
We are, yes.
So, okay. We know volunteers are very important, and I know Seniors First is always looking for new volunteers. Tell us, what kind of opportunities can folks look for?
Absolutely. Well, our biggest use of volunteers is our Meals on Wheels program. We do the nutrition programs for Orange County. We utilize 300 volunteers each week to help deliver food to inbound seniors. And we don't just deliver a meal with that program, we're laying eyes on this person. So if there's any changes in their personality, any changes that we observe, we can be there to assist them. And if the senior does not, for whatever reason, answer the door, we will do a follow-up and try to reach their emergency contact. We'll even call local hospitals and have police do a wellness check if necessary to make sure our seniors are okay. So those volunteers, that's our biggest group, is our Meals on Wheels.
Sure.
We also have office volunteers that can come in and assist us with various things in the office. Or like I mentioned earlier, our emergency food pantry is always looking for volunteers as well.
So we're going to give all the information in just a moment. So anyone that is looking for great volunteer information, and also maybe you want to just reach out to Seniors First if you have a loved one in your life that could benefit through that. So, you know, Holly, if you'd like more information about the programs and services that Seniors First provides, please visit them. And the website is seniorsfirstinc.org, or contact them at 407-292-0177. And Holly, I think I interrupted you. Did you have any further information to give to folks?
No, the one thing that I was also going to say, if people are looking to help their seniors in need, check on your neighbors. That's so important. If there's an emergency coming, a hurricane, before and after, and maybe make sure that they have your phone number if they need to reach out for any reason.
That's great information as well. And from Seniors First, Holly, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Chief Laura Lee Avery, Emergency Manager with the Orange County Office of Emergency Management and the Orange County Fire Rescue Department. And again, thank you, Chief, for being here with us. You have so much great information we're going to share in just a couple of moments. But basically, what is your role with the Office of Emergency Management?
So our main job is to communicate, coordinate, share information, make sure that the actual information, real-time information, is getting out to the community so that they can be safe and prepared.
And so you're the person are you in charge of everything and everybody with this?
Well, for the emergency management, but I coordinate with many partners and organizations and, private and public, and just anybody that helps support us in disaster response.
So here we are with disaster response. That's our phrase right now. What are the things that people really need to kind of take the initiative early to take care of in their planning?
So the most important thing is to prepare early. Unfortunately, too many people wait until a storm is upon us to rush out and buy things and to get their disaster kits ready. So the sooner they are prepared, the better the whole community is.
And something that you mentioned to me in this preparing is you would rather have folks kind of, stay with their family, their friends, rather than going to one of the shelters.
Yeah,
right?
That should always be set up in the planning for people, if they have that availability, to stay with a family or a friend that's in a safe structure. But if they don't have that, there's always that last resort of going to a shelter.
So folks are going to want to know, how do they sign up for like the emergency information, or if they have someone with a special need, how do they kind of get in touch and get that information?
So Orange County has OC Alert, and OC Alert is a good way for everybody to sign up and be prepared, whether it's in hurricane season or if we were to have an unexpected disaster. That will give them early warning notification. Now, for special needs, the best way to get signed up for special needs is to call 311. So they can call that, and there's plenty of assistance to help them get signed up so that everything's set up prior to a storm.
And in fact, we've talked about that 311 number is so vital.
Yes.
They have so much great information.
Yes.
And now you mentioned like storm warnings, storm watches. We're getting those evacuations. So what do people need to know about, really heeding those warnings?
The biggest thing is not to wait till the last minute to prepare. Make sure you're tuning in and heeding to the warnings that are being given. And also, if they know that they're going to have to evacuate, don't wait until it's too late, because once that storm and the high winds are upon us, our fire rescue response units cannot go out in some of those higher winds. So they may end up getting, stuck in their home during really high winds. And that's not something we ever want to deal with.
And something we kind of chatted about off camera is that, we kind of think we're here in Central Florida and we'll see, folks over on the coast, maybe, they were supposed to evacuate and didn't. But, what's kind of the situation? We're not a coastal community. So how does that kind of apply to Central Florida?
So for Central Florida, we are really used, all of the coastal counties will come here and fill up our hotels to evacuate the coast. So when we think about evacuations, really here in Orange County, it's more about our mobile home parks and, flood zone areas that we know historically flood during heavy rains. But as far as massive evacuations, it's normally the coastal counties, and they will come here and fill up our hotels.
Right. Now, I'm sure you have a wealth of information, a wealth of stories in your experience. So maybe what are the important things that people really need to be aware of, those things that can occur either before or after a storm, and what do they need to do to prepare?
Well, first and most importantly, it does not take a direct impact from a hurricane to cause damage or even death. And one of the biggest things that we unfortunately see with hurricanes and with power outages is generator usage. So we really want people to look at their user guide that comes with the generator. Never use it inside a home. The carbon monoxide is, something that can cause death, and we see that unfortunately across the U.S. every hurricane season. So we want to make sure that people are using them, keeping them outside the home. Never refuel them while they're running. Give them time to cool down before they put more fuel in them.
And in fact, that's a good thing to know, whether it's hurricane season or not. These are those safety measures that occurred throughout the year.
Absolutely.
So again, if you would like more information about the services of the Orange County Emergency Management Office, please visit www.orangecountyfl.net, and let's all stay safe and prepared. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you.